Okay, so now we have this vast structured universe of entities. We get to the core challenge.
Hmm.
How do we actually rank them? A user query comes in, best movies directed by Denis Villeneuve or who developed Skype, and that query now has to map directly to the most relevant entity or set of
Not
entities.
just to documents anymore.
Right, so the ranking process has to start by treating the entity like a document somehow, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How does the system create a scorable representation of a thing?
That's the first step. You have to construct a textual representation of the entity, which is called the entity description or profile.
And that's just an aggregation of all the known information.
Everything. For retrieval, the most basic metric we track is the term count, which is just the number of times a term et appears anywhere in the description of an entity.
Okay, but if we just take all that collected text, the names, the attributes, the relationships, and just mash it all together into one giant profile document,
Yeah.
aren't we basically back to square one, just using traditional keyword models like BM25?
And that is precisely the limitation of the unstructured approach. If you treat the entity description as one long, unstructured document, you are forced to rely on these classic bag of words models. And while something like BM25 provides a solid baseline performance, it completely fails to utilize the structural superiority we just spent all this time building.
Give me a detailed analogy for that. Why does that unstructured approach fail when you have this sophisticated structure available?
Okay. Imagine you're trying to find the most relevant person for the search query award-winning writer.
Right.
If we treat the entity profile as one long, unstructured document, the word writer might appear, say, 50 times in the main text summary. But the word award only appears once deep down in the bibliography section, listing the entity's sources.
Right, I see where you're going with this.
The unstructured model would just score the relevance based on the combined raw frequency of those terms. It completely fails to recognize the immense structural difference between a word being in the entity's title field
See, term frequency is so important. Not.
versus its outgoing relations field. You lose the entire hierarchy of importance.